to start with just coalition quick announcements, and then let's see, Cherie is on, and just out of respect for her time, because she's just here with us for the beginning part of our meeting, but if it's okay, I'll jump into our coalition announcements. Let's see, become a member. We still have open membership. We have rolled this out new just this last month, and we have about 12 new members. So I know there's more of you out there who would like to become a member. An individual member is $50. We have our first corporate silver member. That's a $500 membership. And Mary Browning, who may or may not be on, was going to join us, but we welcome her. She has a law practice in Jefferson City, Missouri. We have April 22nd, the coalition has our 13th anniversary celebration and new member welcome. It will be in the downtown area at 500 East Walnut. We'll have cupcakes decorated by a couple of our survivors who've taken a cake decorating class. You'll get your welcome packet, your new member packet, and we'll share a little bit about the history of the coalition and some of the early work that we did way back in 2008. And believe it or not, I don't know, what's 12 times 13? Whatever that is, like, that's the number you are today of that meeting that we're having in the history of the coalition. Like, I don't even know what number that is, but we have been having monthly meetings since the inception of the coalition, which I think must be some sort of record, right? For a group like ours. Also, we have Eldon April 17th, and we can have them share a little bit more, but we appreciate that PACT Pact, People Against Child Trafficking, is hosting a 5K walk run in Eldon to raise funds to support the coalition here in the mid-Missouri area, but also the Lake of the Ozarks Stop Human Trafficking Coalition. And let's see, Stacy, anything you want to add to that? It's like, we know we want to go out there. There's all kinds of great things you're having.
Yeah, we are super excited. It's almost here. We only got like 2 weeks left, so we are really excited. We've got lots of things that's been donated to us for our silent auction, so we're going to have a really good turnout, I hope, and everything's coming out really good.
And there's a bounce house face painting for kids, so definitely a family affair. And you don't have to be a runner. You can leisurely walk the 5K, and your involvement will still be definitely appreciated. I had a chance to visit Eldon. Appreciate recently them hosting the documentary Hope Road, from victim to survivor, and people donated funds, and that's going to help the coalition. But there are 60 people that showed up for this documentary screening, and just wonderful discussion. And thank you, wonderful discussion. They hosted a reception afterwards. And just for the record, it started at 6, and I personally left the parking lot at 11 p.m. And there's still some people there to kind of close up the building, but just people there with their young teenage daughters and young son. Very, very engaging. I was just so excited, Stacy, and they were definitely excited for the walk that's coming up. Sorry. Crime victim rights also. Oh, yes. So April 22nd at the Capitol in Jeff City, we've been invited to have a table for Crime Victims Rights Week. This is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, but also in April is Crime Victims Rights Week. And April 22nd at the Capitol, we'll be tabling outside of the Capitol on the lawn, Capitol lawn. So watch for us there if you're in the Jeff City area, and also just be aware of it being Crime Victims Rights Week. May 2nd in Jeff City, if you're in the Jeff City area, we're going to be hosting another showing of the documentary Hope Road, and it's going to be at the Capitol City Cinema, which is in the historic downtown district of Jeff City, in collaboration with that cinema. And for those of you who are not a member and you're in Jeff City, there's a $10 admission donation. And if you do pay that admission to go see the documentary May 2nd, they will also be able to become a member at a discounted rate. So be sure to check into that.
What time? What time are those two events?
Oh, May 2nd is a 2 p.m. It's Sunday. It's a matinee. And
Thank you.
then the Hope, the Crime Victims' Rights, is that what you're asking about in Jeff City?
Both of them?
We'll have to give, it starts at noon. Tabling starts at noon. And the 5K, 8:30, is that right, Stacy? 8:30 a.m., 8:30 a.m. So, but plan on the whole day because, you know, the walk, the program, bounce house.
If you need to register for the 5K, you need to be there a little bit earlier so we can get you registered because registration stops at 8:30.
Yeah, so show up at 8 if you want to register
Yes.
and you haven't registered in advance. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes,
And the tape with Jeff
we're
City.
in Jeff City. Are we going to be able to go in and talk to any of the representatives that are in there?
sorry, there's someone else talking at the same time.
Oh,
Could
I'll
you,
be quiet.
yeah, no. Could you say it again, Joy? I didn't catch you.
I was asking when we're up at the Capitol, either one of the times, will we be able to go around and talk with some of the people that are working in there
Yeah.
that day?
Certainly, we're welcome to do that anytime. I know that day it's going to be outdoor tabling. But but otherwise, certainly we can go up and visit them anytime. But this event is not a legislative day where we do go in and talk to legislators. It's actually an event on the lawn of the Capitol.
And it's at what time?
I'm sorry?
It's at what time?
Noon. At noon.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So also, we've got some things going on in Warsaw. We just shared a presentation on human trafficking, and I know they're on with us. I'm excited to share with all of you that there's a new organization, Hope 5-1 Ministry, faith-based group that is planning to have an 18 to 24 month residential recovery program for survivors of sex trafficking, starting with adult women. So welcome to them. They had a turnout of about 50 people, and this was just one of several events that they've been having to share with the community who they are and what their intentions are to do this work in their area. It was a lovely gathering, great community. Just excited for what they're going to be doing there in Warsaw. And then we have Ed in Mexico, and he's working with the Chamber of Commerce president to get the documentary shown there in Mexico at a theater, also to get some education in the schools there to the students and administration and teachers about human trafficking. Anything else there, Ed?
Yes, the IPC training is a go.
Yeah.
So I just, it'll be at our church, Second Missionary Baptist Church, on May 25th and 26th.
So this is training for law enforcement. It's a 2-day intensive training. So that's exciting that there will be this intensive training on the interdiction for the protection of children and identifying victims of trafficking for law enforcement in that area. So very excited that that's been set up. Okay. And again, I said earlier, but this is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and Cherie Keeley is the director of one of the domestic violence, sexual violence shelters in Camdenton, serving the Lake Ozark area. And she'll be speaking to us more in May, although this is the month for sexual assault awareness. Of course, with all of these themes, it's something that we want to be mindful of all the time. But I appreciate that she can be here with us to start off. It is no joke that there is sexual violence everywhere. And I just recently posted in our Facebook just really broad statistics. And we'll turn it over to Cherie in just a second here. But just broadly, every 73 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. The majority of the victims are female, probably not surprising to any of you. Every 9 minutes, the victim is a child. Meanwhile, only 5 out of every 1,000 perpetrators will end up in prison. So we know that there's concerted effort with the prevention of sexual violence at the lake, and appreciate Cherie sharing about this great project to prevent sexual violence.
Thanks, Nanette. This is very exciting. I haven't been on one of these meetings before, so very cool. But no surprise with you, Nanette, because you are always out there recruiting us and getting us involved, so very cool. So Nanette asked me to share with you some work we've been doing at the lake. Really, it's about preventing sexual violence here. And really our goal is to build a wall of resistance against sexual violence in the area. So are you guys able to advance, or should I?
I can. Loretta can.
Okay.
Wave her hand.
Just wave your hand. We can see you.
Oh, okay, I'm ready.
Okay. She has 2 screens going on, so we can see you
Okay.
separate.
Okay. Okay, so why this became important. So the lake is really the Tri-County area, or Miller, Morgan, and Camden counties. And you can see from 2017 through 2020, the rates have been going up. And in 2020, it dropped a little bit. However, I think that was more related to COVID, and a lot of people were just fearful. The other thing to tell you about this data is this is only counting the people that, the victims that go into the emergency department at Lake Regional. And I think all of us know that many, many people do not report it, and they don't get an assessment. So one thing about our area is we're a high tourist area. Starting end of March to end of October, we have an influx of people coming to the lake. And that's wonderful because we need it for our economy, but it also creates a little bit of a challenge as far as how do we balance having a playful community and environment, but also have a safe environment. You know, there are some politics that we have to kind of pay attention to. And I'm really not talking about politicians, but just, you know, the businesses locally need the tourists coming in to keep their businesses running, and we want that to happen. So sometimes it's hard when we start to have these conversations that the community, it's very hard to hear about it. However, on the other side of that, I will tell you that the lake community is a very engaged community, and they are engaged around specific, you know, health risk to our community. So as we've kind of been, as a community, looking at all of this, several public and private organizations have been trying to address some of the concerns that they've seen individually by offering training, going on site, talking to owners or, you know, administrators, depending on what it was. But nobody was making any headway. And I remember I joined.
Okay, now I need to get back into the Zoom meeting. Why can't I?
I remember when I joined the organization I'm with locally in 2017,
I can't get
that
into
there
the meeting.
was really a sense of complacency. Folks had been trying some things to have impact, but they really didn't feel like anything was
Then by
changing.
audio,
And so
have to
what I
back up.
heard was people saying that that's just the way it is at the lake. So that's kind of what we stepped into when we started this conversation. So the plan that we came up with, it started with, we knew that we had to have a funding source. And so we approached the Missouri Foundation for Health. They are known for being innovative, liking innovative projects. They also love collaborative work. So, and this was no easy ask. We courted them for at least over a year. And we just, you know, it was hard to describe the project because it really is an organic project, and it needs to grow from the input from the community. If any organization is going and saying this is the answer, we felt that that wasn't going to be helpful. We needed the input of everybody, which made it difficult to articulate it in a way that a funder could really see the benefits. So one of our strategies was to invite a representative from the foundation to come to a local fundraiser, because if you're in the Lake area, you know how much people love the events that we have here. So they came to CADV's annual brunch in 2019, and there were over 600 people present. And so it was shortly after that that they called us and requested a meeting, and they approved funding. So that what that says is they could really see the benefit of how the community was engaged. And that happens with many of the organizations locally. It isn't just our organization. So our focus has been, as you know, I've said from the beginning, we knew it had to be collaborative. We had to have several people around the table. And the structure that we decided to use, when we got this approval, we got the funding, COVID hit. So everything was paused at that point, and everybody was kind of focused in their own businesses and trying to get things stable there. So about a year later, we came back around to this, and we decided to launch a hybrid model. So we would offer a Zoom link as well as an in-person link opportunity. And that meant that that initial group had to be a little bit smaller, because we did want to implement social distancing as much as we could. And then, so there's a smaller kind of, to me, it's like a think tank. It's people that we think have connections. And then the larger group will be more folks that will help to actually launch and implement the projects that are selected. Okay. So the model, and I think I forgot to mention, one of the things with the Missouri Coalition that they require is that you work with a consultant that they have vetted. And so our consultant has been very helpful. And we really recommended that we use this social ecological model of prevention, primary prevention. And it really focuses on 4 different aspects: the individual, relationships, community, and society. And really the thinking is that we're all intertwined, and we know that. So if we, impact prevention in any one of these areas, it will have a broader impact. And so that's the model that we went with. And those initial partners that we've brought to the table for that think tank has included law enforcement, hospital representatives, the Child Advocacy Center, which at the lake is Kids Harbor, schools are at the table, one of the Chamber of Commerce's, because businesses are an important part of this, and we have to have their engagement in this process. Human trafficking experts, as well as domestic violence experts. So we've got a couple of phases, and we're in phase 1 right now. And initially what we decided to do was break that small group into 2 areas: look at sexual assault prevention and look at sex trafficking prevention. So everybody self-selected into the group that they were interested in. The consultant did a national search of prevention programs throughout the country that have had some success. And that information was, so each group had about 7 or 8 national prevention programs that they each needed to review individually and then as a group. And they needed to identify and lift up those ones they thought had the most potential in our community. Which is a really important part. Something can work in another community, but in yours, there are things that would be barriers. So the groups did a really nice job of drilling down into it and really thinking through the uniqueness of the lake and what might work. So now we are at the point where the consultant is doing community mapping. So based on the feedback that the 2 groups gave her, she is talking to people in the community to identify what prevention work is already in place and what of the programs that we identify, where might there be a fit. We don't want to overlap anything, but be complementary to what's in place. And then after we get the mapping done, then we'll look at potential programs that would make sense to do more research on. Then at that point, it goes into phase 2, which is the larger stakeholder group. And that group will identify the projects that they want to implement. 1 or 2 is kind of what we had put in this grant. They will develop the plan, secure the funding, and then they will begin the implementation. And we'll be looking at how to measure it from there. So I think that's all slides. Yeah.
Yeah, there are actually a couple of questions in the chat box. And just also appreciate the coalition is represented by my participation on the group that's dealing with just looking at different prevention programs for sex trafficking. And I hope people are hearing and appreciating this model and how intentional it is in being inclusive in the broad spectrum of people and stakeholders. So question is, have we reached out to the True False Festival? Oh, sorry, that's a documentary. Yes, we have. No, we haven't. Sorry, I meant Ragtag. That was, sorry. So the question related to you, Cherie, is how many of those assaults reported at the lake last year were native lake people versus people coming in from out of town, visitors?
Yeah, I don't have that data. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Feel free to
ask that question.
Christina?
Yeah, can I elaborate why I asked that question?
Yes, please do.
So I can tell you right now that there are many calls that we go on that we cannot get the victims to go to the lake or go to the hospital. And they're usually out of town. The one I'm thinking of specifically, they were actually from Russia. And so my concern is that the issue we have at Lake of the Ozarks is way bigger than we can ever fathom. And because it's so transient there, and I mean, 10 million people is a lot of people. And I don't think we can quite grasp that, the volume of traffic that created, and what is to come again. And so the report of only less, what that graph, I think it said less than 1,000 reported assaults. We're very naive to think that that's all that happened last year at the lake. And so I'm concerned that we're only targeting lake people. That's not who we need to be targeting. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I stop a boat and these people don't even know who's on their boat. I arrested a New York City firefighter last year. I said, who are these women on your boat? He goes, well, I don't know. We picked them up at the bar. Tell me how dangerous that is.
Right.
It's so dangerous. And the environment that we've created is festering for trafficking, is festering for sexual assaults. And it's very scary.
It is, and that's, you're totally hitting right on it, Christina, as far as, you know, that's the dance that you've got because, you know, people are being picked up at the bars and they're coming in for a good time. So how do we, you know, what does it look like to do this in a safe way? And, you know, it's anybody that comes into the emergency department, and we have several people that come to us and they will not go for an assessment. So they're not counted in those numbers. So yes, it's way more than that, agreed.
Thank you, Christina. We know your boots on the ground, law enforcement there. Joy, I see your hand raised.
I know this may sound kind of stupid, but I know we leave our flyers in the bathrooms with the numbers and stuff on them for, you know, girls and boys to call us. But when I was in my pharmacy the other day, they had these little magnets. They were just little squares, just a very little square. And it had the poison control number and all that stuff. Couldn't maybe we make some little magnets that are very discreet, and maybe the person at the register would be able to tell it this person wants one of those put in the bag, or slide one over and be quiet about it. You know, women could point to the magnets and not say a word, and probably they would figure it out if the people are told why they're having these magnets up by the registers. Wow, maybe it wouldn't work, but it was just a thought.
I like that thought too. This is Margaret. Having lived in Columbia, I'm very familiar with the lake. I grew up here and always gone to the lake. Our latest news that we've seen recently was about a situation, a sexual trafficking situation, that the girls went on a boat with someone and they didn't really even know who they were on the boat with, and then later realized that their drinks had been, you know, played with and they were in trouble. But and I think that's going to come to prosecution, which is good. But that made me think about the bars. You know, if we could get our flyers like we have in our restrooms, like at the hospital where I worked, you know, where they're there in the restrooms where the girls can see them and they know there's somebody they can call if they need to call. And maybe it'll just make them think about their drink, to watch their drink while they're at the bar. The other thing that kind of came to mind to me, Cherie, is I have friends that live at the lake, and I know the assault, sexual assault is a big part of the real estate program down there. Like the realtor friends that I have, they've had a couple of instances, maybe more, that weren't reported, that, you know, men go out to show a home and they're attacked. And so I think if we could get those folks involved with this too somehow, I know you probably have, but those are just some things that kind of come to mind for me down at the lake. And if you wanted any names, I'd be glad to send them to you, of people I know down there that, like, one has that real estate book, you know,
Yes.
he's a good target to let people know information.
Yeah, thank you. That's very helpful. Yeah, realtors would be good.
There's another question. How much emphasis is put on training for the restaurant/bar staff, the dock workers, et cetera, to notice signs of trafficking or sexual assault?
That's certainly discussion that's come up. We haven't actually selected any project, but there are some projects that were looked at focusing on really water bars, you know, and how to, you know, what kind of interventions would you do there and what would it look like? And training, and some of what even Joy was talking about, you know, having the bartenders aware of some sort of way that they could alert them that they needed help. You know, so yes, that's been a part of it. And the other venue is concerts. You know, what are we doing to vet the bands that are coming in? We once got an anonymous call about a band that was coming into our area, and whoever was calling advised us that they had been convicted of a sexual assault. So there's lots and lots of opportunities.
Thank you, Cherie. Oh, Christina?
I can say on behalf of Lake of the Ozarks Stop Human Trafficking that the 3 years that I was on the board, we went around right before the weekend before Memorial Day to all the hotels, resorts, gave them information on trafficking, gave them our information on the hotline, asked them to put posters in the bathrooms for victims. We told them that that was probably the only private area that they could go to with the national hotline number. And most of the hotels did not want to believe that anything happened at their establishment. Most of the hotels down here do not have cameras in their hallways. They have them in their parking lot. They do not have them inside to observe people going in and out of the rooms. Because if you have a camera, a security camera at the front desk and they're watching it, they can see if, 5 guys are going in and out of a room. But most of them do not have cameras in their establishments, and they do not want to believe that anything happens down here. So we left them information for training or what their employees could ask if they saw something, call the police, whatever. But they just like took the paperwork and stuff and kind of threw it over in a corner, and that they didn't give it to their employees. So I don't know what you can do to make them understand that it's happening here. So
To back on what she's saying, they don't want to stop the problem. It's their livelihood. They think if I don't drink, less money for me, it's less money for my family. If I get too involved in what's going on over there, then I'm going to miss a sale over here. Without overstepping my bounds, it's just a way bigger problem. Higher ups at the Lake of the Ozarks allow it to happen. They know it happens. They allow it to happen in what she just said. For whatever reason, when we go in to investigate the crime, those cameras don't work that night. We can't get video footage of what we need, or in like 2 weeks, for instance, it's so bad in 2 weeks at I won't say the name of a particular bar at the Blake. There were 4 sexual assaults in 2 weeks, and that particular bar has county there security. They have police officers there. It's that prevalent that it's happening right underneath police officers' nose. And the Lake is like no other. Like she's explaining, somebody needs to say, how do we get this model to work at the Lake when we really don't have a lot to compare it to, because this city, this town, this lake is different than any other model we could ever look at, which makes it so hard to find and help and investigate and put people in prison. Is very.
Yeah.
Agree with everything.
Another question? Oh, sorry. Another question. Would city council have any more influence on enforcing training or even state representatives? Cherie, your thoughts on that?
Well, I think at some point, I agree. I think governance is going to have to get involved. They haven't up till now. So I think if we can get a groundswell to come to them, maybe that's the way to go. We've had some good legislative support for the 3 counties, very engaged, they had influence. I think now we have several new folks right now, so it's kind of getting them on board. And I think everybody's, you know, going and talking to them about the issues at the lake and what's happening. So, you know, unfortunately, it's like everything just takes time, and you don't, you know, how do you stay engaged and not lose hope? Because it's going to take us time, and it's over and over, you know. And I talked to, you know, someone the other day, law enforcement, and talked about, you know, how frustrated, and, you know, that he gets so angry that all this work that goes in, and it, you know, it doesn't seem to go anywhere. So there's so many aspects to this, and it's a very complicated situation.
So Sherry, I thank you for your leadership in this, because you know how complicated it is. And I think everyone here is appreciating and understanding that. We'll share if there's any more that you want to put in chat, folks. We can make sure that Sherry gets it passed on. Somebody just also suggests looking at similar cities and destinations and what kind of training they're doing there. So the advantage we have of having a consultant who is fully devoted to this project is really a good thing, because she's able to follow up. She's able to look into and call and talk to and find out about these different prevention programs that we've lifted up all over, that are happening all over the country and by different national organizations. So one more comment, Joy, because we'll want to wrap up this part.
I just was wondering, if we did a fundraiser, if we were able to get some sort of cameras that were very, very tiny, were discreet enough, people would not really notice them. Do you think maybe that might help influence the motel owners? I know they don't want to think it's going on, but I think a large part is they don't want the cameras up there because they'll lose the business.
Right.
So they weren't noticeable.
Yeah, so like the point Christina made is that you put all these things in place and raise money, get posters, things, but if the business owner themselves don't really want anything to change and impact their business, I would be afraid to start a fundraiser for cameras for motels when they're the ones that really don't want them. But it's good that all this thinking and sharing, and I'm sure you can see you're a very engaged group of people. And so thank you. Really appreciate your time and your effort. And also there is a Lake Ozark Stop Human Trafficking Coalition member part of this. She's also sexual assault nurse examiner for Lake Regional Hospital. And so there is a good diversity of people represented. So thank you, Cherie.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you next month more. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye-bye. So Roxie, if you just give us just a few more minutes, I'm gonna try to, I know that I saw Warsaw had come and gone, but I just wanted to ask Connie, I mentioned your organization briefly. Please feel free to come back next week and talk more, but just wanted you to have a chance to say briefly what your organization is doing and hoping for, even though I sort of said it very quickly. This is Connie. I've already forgotten your last name. Sorry, Connie.
I'm Connie McCrae.
McCrae.
And yes, we are just brand new organization. Like you mentioned, our long-term goal is our big goal is to get a restoration home here, as well as similar to the one in Harrisonville. But in the meantime, we're raising awareness and trying to provide any resources that we can, connecting together in the community.
Thank you. So Roxie, you've got a very eager audience, all of us, but especially Connie. So just quick thank yous, good news, just a couple of things to share. We had a survivor start a new job this week. She was able to get a laptop donated to her for her to start a new job. So just sharing the good news that things do move forward for these individuals. She's able to do a job from home on the laptop doing data entry, which is great. And then we have a survivor who just got a car very recently, and that enabled her to actually move into a new apartment out of a recovery home because it's north of town, and gave her that freedom to be able to still get to her job. We had volunteers, some of them on the Zoom call, who gave rides to her to and from 2 different jobs and to school. while she was able to save money for a car. So just to shout out a couple of positive things moving forward for the lives of survivors that we're serving. I know there was something else, but let's see. Let me check my, I'm just gonna throw out a few things here and let you folks do some Google searching yourselves. So if you want to check into 13th Steppers, it's related to the 12-step recovery program. There is something to be aware of. It is where people who are in the 12-step program, there's a 13th stepper where people who are experienced in recovery might be preying upon those who are newbies to the recovery program, and that sets these individuals up for possible victimization by predators with what is being presented as additional step of the 12-step program, but really is just, again, setting newbies up into the 12-step program with people who are older and experienced and falling prey to sexual predators. So 13th steppers, just an alert to that. If you have a friend that said, hey, I'm doing the 12-step program and I've heard that there's a 13th step, well, please look it up and please advise them. We know that there's the Jeffrey Epstein news. That's now it's Maxwell, the female. She is facing charges, but I also wanted to share, if you Google search Lake Ozark mayor, speaking of the lake, was exposed for buying minors for sex. And he has not yet been arrested, but I'll just leave it at that. So you can Google search the article and see all the investigation that's been done on him and evidence found on him buying minors for sex. And look into that. And so people, again, at every level, local, community, or major figure, national, having that position and power. Also, I know there's been lots of news about coaches in gymnastics and probably other types of sports as well. But in gymnastics, there was a recent case of a former U.S. Olympic gymnastics coach. His name is John Geddert, Geddert. He has committed suicide, but before he did that, he faced 20 counts of human trafficking. And what to me was important about this case is because you can imagine there's sexual abuse, sex trafficking, sexual assault, but he also faced a charge of forced labor. So just wanting to expand our understanding, because human trafficking is both labor trafficking and sex trafficking. And I think you'll find it interesting that this particular situation of a coach of these athletes also faced a charge of labor trafficking. Just wanted to throw some news at you and do some Google searching on your own to continue taking the deep dive into understanding human trafficking. So, Roxie, we have been privileged to partner with many different organizations, including domestic violence shelters and programs like Restoration House in Hallsville, Harrison, I'm not even going to say, I get my H words and M words all mixed up. They have been a partner for many years. Survivors that we have served have been able to get placement there and received healing and recovery. There are other recovery homes, fortunately for Missouri, in our state, and also these exist around the country. So we have referred to Restoration House and referred to places even far away, and they serve such an important service in the recovery. Most of the homes are for women and girls. So let's just keep in mind that we have victims who are men and boys. There might be one or two out there in the country that are specifically for survivors of sex trafficking who are men or boys. But we do know that the primary victimization, at least in the US, is of women and girls, and they're domestic. We often think of sex trafficking victims being foreign born, but that is just not the case. There are those, but certainly our domestic folks are targeted, men and women, boys and girls as well. So Roxie, we were in preparing for this, we're remembering that we had first contact some years ago. And we were happy to be able to talk about the success and the healing of the survivor that she had served at one time, and to just give you a just brief glimpse in the complexity which we just had talking about this prevention project in the lake area. This individual ended up leaving the house and then being back basically on the streets again and reaching out for help. She had called me from a payphone but left a message, so I couldn't call her back. But she also had Roxie's cell phone number and was able to reach out to Roxie, who was able to help her. And she was able to get her into another residential recovery program here in Missouri, where she continued her healing. So it's a very difficult and challenging area, but Roxie's been working hard and has been growing the program there in the greater Kansas City area. So I turn it over to you with appreciation for all you do, Roxie, and our partnership. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here tonight. And as Nana said, I've had the honor of working directly with her on a couple of participants. So I just thank you for all your diligence and your hard work. Am I able to share my screen here?
They should be. Ask her if she can.
It says host disabled.
Can you see your slides?
I can see my slides, but I can't progress them or go back. It says host disabled attendees screen sharing.
Okay, we're going to try to screen share with you.
Okay.
We're going to make you the host. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Oh, there's my grandbabies. Sorry, give me
We're not seeing a grandbaby.
Okay. Well, share screen. I'm trying. Share. Tell me when you see something.
You mean besides all these lovely faces?
Besides, yes. Okay, let's try this. How about that? Can you see it?
Nope, we're still the Brady Bunch.
Screen. Well, it's up on my side, but it's not letting me in on yours. So, well, maybe somebody will walk me through this.
Okay. So we'll
ask her if she can
would you give the host back to
could you tell me how to do it?
Oh, okay. Click on like one of the
three little dots.
One of the three little dots by my name?
Her name.
By your name. Three little dots by your name.
Okay, let me minimize this because
it gives her the option of stopping the host.
None of them say anything about giving the host back.
Okay, go up to the three little dots by Nanette.
That's where I'm at.
Try to go up to the three dots by my name.
Oh, sorry.
Well, we're changing the instructions. It wasn't your fault.
Make audio, stop video, chat, pin video, spotlight video, make host. There you go. Sorry. Well, I don't know why it wouldn't let me show you. I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay. Well, just give
Let me
us a
just
quick,
kind of wing it here.
Yeah.
And yes.
Just give us a quick change slide and we'll do that.
Sure. Like I said, my name is Roxie Lloyd, and I'm the Executive Director of Restoration House. I'm also a survivor. I'm a certified alcohol and drug counselor, and I'm also on the Human Trafficking Task Force. Who we are, yeah. Restoration House is a long-term, faith-based organization that provide hope and healing for victims of human trafficking. Not just women victims, but also minor victims. So I'm on the adult side, but we also have a home for minors. If you could go to the next slide, please. We exist because there's more than 40 million persons enslaved in human trafficking around the globe. It's the fastest growing, which you folks probably already know this stuff. It's the fastest growing, second largest criminal industry in the world, generating over 150.2 billion worldwide. Those numbers are staggering. A little bit about how that relates to Kansas City. In 2013, a study was done and that found on any given Friday night in Kansas City, 14.5 adult males, that's over 160,000 men, were actively responding to online advertisements offering commercial sex acts. 89% of those calls were from local area codes. In 2009, the FBI, in partnership with our Independence Police Department, posted a decoy ad. Now, in this ad, it describes females as little girls, all right? Over 500 phone calls were received within the first 24 hours. In 2017, a study using police data estimated that on any given time in that area that approximately 3,500 adult victims were victims of commercial sexual exploitation. Now, these are older studies, so consider how the numbers have increased. And also couple that with the adverse effects of COVID right now. I mean, we all have more screen time. We're all closed in. So imagine how that's affecting our youth right now. It's numbers like these that inspired Restoration House. In 2015, as a response to this epidemic, we opened our, we opened our first adult home. In 2019, we opened our first home for minors. Now, this is run under the umbrella of, the minor home is run under the umbrella of the Missouri Baptist Children's Home. We paid for the house, we decorated the house, we pay salaries there, but it's run under the licensure of the Missouri Baptist Children's Home. And also in 2019, we opened Rehope Market and Cafe. And what this is Coffee for a Cause. So it's a little coffee house in Greenwood, Missouri, where the proceeds go back into services here. We also can give our women jobs there. And some of the products that I'll talk about in a little bit that we make here are sold at that coffee shop. And then in 2019, so we started out as 2 small houses located, we were a safe center. I can tell you where that is now. It was located in Cleveland, Missouri. That's where we started out. And then we were super blessed by this property that we're at right now that we call Restoration House Farms. And I believe if you'll go to the next slide, yes. So what you're looking at right now is so this is the parish that's in the center. That's the actual home where the girls are. If you look over to your far right, you can't really see much of it. I wish I had a better picture, but it's a huge church. And behind that church is a big event center. So in the event center is where we do most of our social enterprise. We went to, I don't want to say we went to a lot of trouble, but we felt it was so important to make this home look like a home and not a facility. And if you, yes, so, yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. It's kind of like Chip and Joanna Gaines, black walls. It's absolutely beautiful. And we were able to do that by pulling all churches together and saying, okay, You take room 1, you take room 2. So we were able to furnish the whole house that way. Yeah, go ahead. This is the kitchen view and the living room. There's also another living room downstairs to give the girls a little privacy. And this is the dining table. One of our volunteers built that table for them. It's a peaceful, tranquil place, and it's made all the difference. Since we've opened here, no one has left. So our program is open for, we want to get to the point where it's 3 years. And we started out with a 1-year program, and we just recognize that we send our kids to college for 4 years. And these are normal college, you know, privileged folks send their kids to college for 4 years and expect them to come out of that and function in life. And when you pile on these traumas and complexities and expect them to be okay in 3 to 9 months, they fail. They ultimately will fail if they don't have that support that they need. As Nanette was talking about, one of the participants that we shared some engagement with, you know, in what I've found in this business, basically, and I've been doing it for over 10 years, is you have to be okay with being a planter of hope. You know, we don't always get to see the harvest. Unfortunately, the traumas, the complexities, these women often relapse and they need wraparound supports. They don't need you to give up on them, but they may need you to get them to another location. And that's what we do. We just don't give up. So part of how we've been able to expand our services out here is we're able to have a garden. The girls are able to plant, cultivate. They canned salsa. They grew jalapenos and the tomatoes and the onions, and they got taught how to can their own salsa. If you notice in the back, we've got a really nice chicken coop, so the girls are able to get fresh eggs every day. It's an awesome place to be out here. I don't know, I can't see, it's kind of blocked, but yes. So behind that brown barn, we also expanded to have tiny Nigerian goats. So these goats are incredible. The girls love them. They're like little dogs. They cry for you. They're constantly walk around the yard and follow you on a leash. So the girls learn how to care for them. They learn how to build trusting relationships, just as they do in equine therapy. And yes, the chickens are awesome too. Not so much relation builders, but they are gift providers. And in entertainment, if you've ever watched chickens run across the yard, that never gets old. So this is one of our little girls, Selah. And right now they're breeding. So the goats actually serve 2 purposes. They love treats for sure, and they'll jump a fence in a heartbeat. But they serve 2 purposes, because what we do in social enterprise is we make stainless steel tumblers. So we glitter, epoxy, Cricut logo, customize stainless steel tumblers. But we also make cold processed soaps. So we use goat milk to make the cold processed soaps. So as soon as we've had to purchase it, like from the store, they sell it there. But as soon as these little girls right here have babies, we're able to use that milk in the production of the cold processed soaps. Aren't they gorgeous? I'm gonna let it just sit right there for a second. And I do want to introduce Megan. Like, I don't typically show faces, but she's actually elevated to one of our staff members now. So she's a peer support. She has a little baby. She's been with us since before the baby was born and is doing incredible. So getting to watch this all come to fruition, getting to see her baby raised out here on the farm, and getting to see Megan step out into that peer support specialist. You can't want anything more as an organization. That's the best that you can hope for. So I am super uber blessed to get to watch this every day. This is the event center. On the left-hand side is where the girls all do their tumblers and the stainless steel products. They're like Yetis. I don't know that I have one. Wow. So this one just was an event that we did. So we logoed it for, what was it? Country Stampede that we put on. And then we put the company name on the back. But we do all sorts of, like wood grain, anything they want, actually. So another part of the event center is our kitchen. We have an awesome kitchen, and we have a beautiful Italian chef that comes in, and she teaches the girls how to make homemade lasagnas, and just do all kinds of life skills and such there. Volunteers are the backbone to what we do. And I know you probably already know that. We couldn't do what we do without them. So this is some of the girls making tiramisu, making lasagna. You can go to the next, yeah. And on, let's see, that's still the tumbler side. Yeah, so you can see all the epoxy and the turner stations. That it kind of always looks like chaos, but a lot of really beautiful artwork comes out of it. This is the soap station. So we have our fragrances, our oils, our soap cutters, and just a few examples of some of the soap that we make there. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, they're really pretty. And they smell incredible. So for me, having those hands-on things as part of my healing journey, here's some candles. We also do the wood wicks and the wooden bowls. You'll see that in the next slide. Everybody loves them. And it's nice to have that outlet to sell them. I honestly, people ask me all the time, can I go online and buy it? No, it's all we can do to keep up with the coffee shop. People love their products. They really do. And I'm proud to get to, this is Rehook Market, located in Greenwood, Missouri. This is where the coffee shop is. This is where all the products can be found. Some of the other services that we provide here are spirituality, of course. Like I said, we're a faith-based organization. Trauma healing, alcohol and drug recovery, equine experience, small animal, I hate the word husbandry, horticulture experiences, life skills, anger management. We work on budgeting. We work on preparing resumes, job readiness, educational assistance, such as each girl's on their own different paths. So one may want to go to college, one wants to get their GED, one wants to go to work. So we kind of wrap around them and provide them with mentoring or tutoring or career counseling, whatever the case is, we meet them there. And of course, case management. Our mental health services are taken care of. We're outsourced. We do have a biblical counselor right now. One has left and we're about to hire a new one. So we're in between that right now, but all of our mental health needs are taken care of through CAST Psychological Services. So super grateful. That's how we're able to work on such a smaller staff, by having that outside resource. So the girls, when they first come in, they're assessed by CAST for whatever drug or mental health need that they have. And so typically what I'm finding is the girls that come to us need to be in small groups there a couple days a week. So a couple days a week they go there and then come home around 4. And then the other days they're here with us working on kind of the same thing, some alcohol, some relapse prevention, anger management, things like that we just talked about. So they'll kind of phase out of that and then be here full time. About when the time that happens is about 6 months. So they're able to start looking for jobs at that time. And we just kind of want to keep it under around 30 hours, if that's possible, just so they stay plugged in with their support here and don't get overwhelmed by their work. They're able, to start working then. We help them find jobs. I just had 2 girls that graduated both went to took CNA classes through a nursing home, and are about ready to test out and have their apartments now. So super happy about that. Always have people ask how they can get involved. You can go to restorationhousekc.org, click on the Get Involved tab, fill out, we do background checks. Other ways, I mean, we always need prayer partners, overnight mentors, drivers, are always, we take them everywhere. So we always need quick trip gas cards, Amazon, Walmart. So the girls are able to like go buy bras or undergarments and be able to pick them out themselves. You know, that's not something that you can just donate typically. So that's what we use those for. Another thing that I'm super excited. Are we going backwards?
No, I just wanted to make sure if there's anything else you wanted to say about services, just to.
No, I want to wrap up by saying we're super excited. We just, we applied for a grant, and we do everything volunteer. I mean, we've never had grants like this, but we finally got this amazing grant and are able to renovate the church. The bigger part, you didn't really see it. So in the church, our offices are upstairs. Downstairs, we've built a coffee nook and library and computer labs, and that our donations are processed down there. But we're totally renovating the whole church. So we're adding 12 more beds. So
Wow.
that's
Wow.
incredible. Yes. So being able to not say no almost every day. I know, Nanette, you get referrals and you get phone calls, and you can only do so much. You only have so much room. So super excited about that. So we're going to completely renovate the whole church, and that starts April 15th.
Great.
Yeah.
Could we see those goats one more time? Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
I mean, the candles are amazing too, but oh my
They're
gosh.
so
Oh my
sweet.
gosh.
Yes, and they're dwarfs, so they stay pretty small. These were brand new at this time, so they're a little bit bigger than that, but not much. And they're breeding right now, so by July, we're gonna have babies, I hope.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Could I ask?
Well, so let's I know we'd like to look at the goats. I do anyway, but if we want to go back to our screen so we can all see each other, and I know there's questions, and we went through that very quickly, Roxie, but I'm glad we still have more time. I know there'll be questions. Let's see. Okay, let's see. How many beds do you have currently?
Currently, we have 6, or is it 6 or 7? Either 6 or 7 at the minor home. I can't remember how they broke those up. It's been a while since I've been over there. And then I have what should be 6 beds here, but I've got the mom and the baby. So in the adult side, but we will add, so we're adding 12 bedrooms. 1 will be a staff bedroom, and the other 11 will be for participants. We'll kind of switch it up a little bit, that the church will now be like a phase 1. And as they phase up, they'll phase out to the smaller house. So, and then at that time, you know, you don't get to keep them all forever. So I imagine that some will phase to their reunified with their families, or we just pray that that's enough beds and that God works all that out.
Yeah. I appreciate what you just said about in the early phase, because I remember one of the programs, and I'm sure it was because the ones here in Missouri didn't have a bed. So we were searching all over the the country. And one of the programs had one house in Florida. They had more than one house they had houses in different states, but all of the new people that came into the program went to the home in Florida.
Yes.
And I thought, well, that's a good idea, because you're all sort of at this, and that's one of the challenges I'm sure that you had before, people who've been there a while and then throw in a new person. maybe newly exited person most likely, and how that really switches up the dynamics and can be very challenging.
It can, absolutely. So, and also, you know, you have to put in perspective, I can't help everybody. I know what my program is, and I know who can benefit from it. And if there's all these extra behaviors that, I mean, sometimes I'm just not a good fit for you. But I'm always going to help them find someplace.
Yeah.
But to come here, you've got to be ready, you know, and we're able to pick those folks that seem ready to settle down and get to work on their recovery. Yeah.
And I know you can speak to this too, but in our experience working together and making referrals, I appreciate Roxie's always taken time to talk to the individual who is interested. And looking at the slides and hearing everything you heard Roxie just tell you, you would think, oh my gosh, how do I sign up to come live in that house? But just the idea that they won't have their phone when they get there, for many reasons. I'm going to let Roxie share those reasons, but that's typical across the board. Any long-term recovery, that's one of the things that happens. And just that alone can make a survivor say, you know, I don't want to not have my phone. And then it pains me. You understand it, and yet you know what they're not getting by not having their phone, all the other things that they're missing. But speak to the not having the phone thing.
Sure, it can be a deterrent. And there again, that lets you know their level of dedication to it. I only do it for the first 3 months, and it's not because I don't want them to have their phone, because they have all the phone privileges that they want. They just don't have their physical phone. And that's just because I've got to protect everybody in the house. I don't know if someone's coming in to recruit. So I need that 3 months for them to land their plane. And in that time, their thinking has changed. It's altered, and obviously for the better. So finding out who their safe contacts are, that gives us a chance to get to know them, get to know their personality, get to know what their weaknesses are and what their struggles are, and who might be safe and who might not, you know? So, but anytime they want to make a phone call, we're a voluntary program. If they want to leave, if they feel trapped, I meet them right where they're at, and I understand that. We're not for everybody.
Yeah.
But if you just give yourself a minute to put everything in perspective, what's important in your life, that time just flies by. And they all say that. I can't believe it. I've already been here 3 months.
That's after they've been there in this lovely, wonderful wraparound services. But 3 months sounds like forever when they think they're not going to have their phone, even if you tell them all the other wonderful things: the housing, the shelter, the counseling, the medical, the food, you know, a wonderful home environment. And if you tell them you can still make phone calls, it's not meant to isolate you, it's not meant to keep you from having contact with the safe people. But we know that it's not unusual for a survivor, even if they block somebody who's from the past that's not a good person, will find another route on a different account where they're not blocked and still reach out to survivors. So that it's not uncommon for the trafficker, predator, or someone that's not a good person in the past to really work very hard to make contact. And that's just like she said, it's a deterrent. And there have been cases where someone has come into a program and found out to be a recruiter. So it can happen. It can happen. Questions for Roxie? Other questions for Roxie?
Oh, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Marlene.
Before your grant, how do you fund all of this? This is not cheap. Staff costs money. It's not cheap. How did you fund it before the grant, and how will you fund it after the grant?
We solely on donations. So once a year, I want to back up a little bit. Part of the chairman of the board, the founder, is Dr. Rodney Hammer. So he's hugely involved in Baptist BRKC, Blue River Baptist Association. So he knows a lot of church folks. He knows a lot of pastors. So we were able to put this network of churches around us. Basically, I wasn't there at the beginning. I came along about a year afterwards. But that's basically how it worked, completely solely on donations. We have once a year, we have our main fundraiser, which I heard y'all talking about yours. So we do a gala every year. Every year up until last year, it's done in person. So they sell the tables, they do an online auction. Our girls do artwork. They buy survivor artwork for great amounts of money. It's a lot of wonderful people that come there. And then we get people to donate items like a Keurig or you know, things like that. We different stores to donate one thing. So they do the online auction, and that has supported us every year. Huge, our only main fundraiser. So
Thank you.
yes. Have a gala. Folks like to come. They like to get something tangible. They like to have but I do want to add to this. So when it came to last year, you know, we were worried. I know who our Father is, and I know that God has made his way through every situation that we've had. He's provided for everything that we need. But with COVID, you know, you can't help but worry. You know, this is our main fundraiser. So we made the decision to go virtual, and we weren't affected in the least. The same response, the same amount of money. We actually put out less money by not putting it on. We'll probably do a hybrid of that next year moving forward. But yeah, it still worked. Thank goodness.
Mm. Connie, I'm sure you have questions.
Yes, Connie, I apologize. She tried to get a hold of me a couple days ago. We do run on a short staff, so I have a fancy title, but I'm doing direct services too. So or running on a crisis call. So I apologize.
No, that's okay. Not seeing any other questions. Oh, yes, Amy.
Where can we buy your products?
Oh, yes, Rehope Market. We will have an online. Once we add 10 more people, we're going to have a lot more folks to work on products. And they, mind you, they only do that after lunch, like the last few hours of the day. The first part of the day, we're in devotions. We're in one of those life skill groups or recovery groups. But half a day, it's healing arts, and they can go there, they can paint, they can express themselves any way they like. We've got tons of outlets to do that. So I don't know if I answered your question. What was the question?
Well, I think you'd have a lot.
Where can we buy your products?
Oh yeah, at Rehope Market in Greenwood, the coffee shop. We will have an online presence. We just don't right now. And that's okay with me because I'm trying to keep up.
Well, you know, you're going to have a lot of people snatching that stuff up, because I was talking to a group just yesterday and telling them that you can find a way to buy things online. Just Google searching survivors of human trafficking products for sale, and both overseas and US programs, and I know that they will snatch your things up once you have them online. Yeah, I just did some of my own shopping recently and did that Google search, and yeah, can't wait for you to have it online.
Thank you.
Yeah, this one aspect, and to have such a treasure in Restoration House and the other programs that we have in Missouri and around the country is really a remarkable thing. They have been, such as Warsaw coming up, you know, that's their goal. These programs are coming up around the country more and more, and they are critically needed. there is that survivor who can benefit from that, who can not worried about, well, I have kids and maybe they don't have them in their custody, but they're in a certain town and they don't want to be away from the kids. And there's a lot of good reasons that survivors aren't a good fit for this type of program. But boy, howdy, there are so many that do and could. Yeah, we do appreciate the partnership.
Yes, I just love you, Nina. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Yes, Joy.
She's muted.
There you go. Hi, Joy.
Hi. Actually, Nanette, I was going to tell you, my phone is down to 6% and I've got it plugged in. It's going to have to just go. Can you fill me in about the meeting when it's over?
I sure will.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
This wasn't, it's kind of like who answers the phone first. I have cell phone to Roxie. I have a cell phone to the program director in the St. Louis program. They also have one. It's International Crisis Aid. They have a refuge home. They call it, I think, referred as Freedom House. But there were 2 minors recently. I had a Pulaski County Children's Division person call me and ask me if I could help them find a placement for these 2 young girls. They were 15 and 17. And that night, there was an opening for those 2 gals at one of our other Missouri shelters, and they were able to go there that night. So these programs are so critical. The need, really, I think if there's ever an opening, it's because somebody doesn't know that they can call you yet.
Yes, I know Highway Patrol, entities like that, they want to do something, but then there's no place, like no hardly any crisis where you can meet somebody interacting with a pimp. They're picked up, they understand they're a victim, but then there's no place to take them. There's no services. Maybe they can meet an advocate, but there's no place for them to go and no way out. And they go right back into the same issues.
Yeah. Ed, I noticed you had one comment in the chat that you located a 3rd hotel in Mexico tied to trafficking and 1 hotel in Fulton, Missouri tied to hotels in Mexico. Did you want to say more about that while we're still online together?
No, that was part of the investigation when my cousin was trafficked. I found some hotels in Mexico, but just here recently I found the 4th hotel or the 3rd hotel, and all of the hotels are tied together, as well as the 5 houses located in Mexico as well with the same tie-in. So Mexico needs some cleaning up. So hopefully we can get some work done in Mexico.
Yeah. So between your digging and finding, discovering, and the training that's coming up, and knowing that there's a resource like what Roxie has to keep in mind, because that is always a question, is where do they go? Where do they go? Yeah. So this is good.
And they're actually remodeling the house that my cousin was held in, was trafficked from. So that was kind of a disappointment there too. But yeah, it's an ordeal. But Mexico is a busy place, as small as it is.
Yeah.
I did forget to mention, we are able to work with Hope City in Kansas City. And so we have a room there for crisis situations.
Oh, what is Hope City? What is Hope City?
Hope City is a faith-based shelter, basically. Okay. And they have their own internal program, but I think it's like 30 or 60 days. But we have a room there designated with 4 or 5 beds that anytime we get a crisis call, they might not be a fit for us, but I'm going to get them into shelter there and start working to find a placement for them.
That's great. That's great. Okay, well, it's 7:33. Any other questions? Mary, I know you came on late. Welcome. Thank you for your being a resource. Actually, Mary has, may I make a, well, I should ask Mary, can you hear me?
I can, I don't know,
Okay.
I touched the button and now I can't see anybody, so I don't know what I've done.
Is it okay if I just mention in general terms your thought? What?
Yes.
So Mary has a home and she runs her law firm out of it, but she has talked to the coalition about having her home be available as a possible safe place. So we just appreciate, it's a beautiful home, 3 stories. Her business is on the 1st floor, but that's certainly something we want to pursue. Because there is a need, there just is a need. And for those of you who on the call may not know that there was a time when the coalition did have a temporary, an emergency house for lodging. It could hold up to 6 women. It was here in Columbia, but we didn't have the staffing. You know, we're all volunteers, except for Loretta, our admin and development person. And so when it came to the way to staff that house, it was really just volunteers. And so when we pursue that again into the future, we will first have the money to have a staff person be able to be in that. So it's hard work, it's complicated, it's messy, you have all these different personalities, different places in the recovery. There might be mental health issues, might be drug issues. It's very difficult, but offering that home environment still is so important, and that wraparound services is so important. Thank you.
Where is Mary Browning's?
In Jefferson City.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, and Marlene is the volunteer and donor who made that house possible. And we were able to serve many, many survivors in the time that we had it. And once again, Marlene, we thank you for that, making that type of service that we were able to offer possible here in this community.
Thank you for being there, Nanette, and others.
Thank you. All right, any last words? Going once, going, oh, are you with Laura? Yes.
I just want to say hi to Mary. I think Bart asked you if you knew me, and you hadn't known me. So I'm just telling you, I'm Laura that Bart was talking about.
Oh, very good. It's good to meet you, Laura.
Yes, nice to meet you. Thank you, Nanette.
That is exactly what this Zoom meeting is for, is also for the networking. So we still want to keep it interactive and still want opportunity for people. Hello, Randy, I'm seeing faces now. We weren't sure who Randy was, but you're new to coming to a meeting. Anything you want to say?
I want to say I came in late tonight, but I did have opportunity to listen to Roxie's presentation, and I appreciated that. Connie and I have had the opportunity in the past to work closely with some teen challenge facilities, and particularly one that took care of women in Clark, Missouri. We've always seen a restoration house as something that was critically needed. So at some point, Roxie, I may reach out to you just to pick your brain, if you don't mind, about what it took to get it started. And obviously, we believe there's a need for one in this area.
I'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, and Randy, where are you?
We're in Salisbury, Missouri, which is about 1 hour northwest of Columbia, 30 miles west of Moberly.
All right. That's right, Randy, we exchanged some emails, didn't we?
Yes. Okay,
very good. I just saw your first name, so I didn't connect, so thank you. Yeah, money and volunteers, right? That's but certainly a desire, because a need is there. So Randy and Connie, I'm glad you were able to come on.
Thank you.
And we just have to grow our network, grow our resources, grow our capacity, and to stay connected, because people have to come and go wherever those resources are. We have to know who each other is, and be able to have that connection and that trust with one another, so that we can pass along these individuals that we want to help into good hands, and to receive them into good hands. So thank you all so much for being here this evening.